shit. Ah, that actually hurt. Happy Easter, everybody. The day where all the younglings go around to pick up a bunch of eggs dropped by a psychotic rabbit or a juiced up one. And where all the Christians go to celebrate the day Jesus got knocked down and then got revived by his teammates. There are so many different ways to celebrate Easter. It's a mixture of different traditions. There's honestly so many ways to celebrate it. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna play Angry Birds all the whole time. And what else am I supposed to do at the party? Eat the spicy chilaquiles? Picture this. You're 10 years old and you're currently sitting in the shopping cart of your mom while you guys are at the grocery store. Or you're at your mom's taxing place. Or you're at some place that's too adult for your small childish mind to understand and you become instantly bored. So your parents, seeing that you're bored and stuff, decide to give you their phone loaded with Angry Birds. That line delivery wasn't that impactful. Your parents chuck the phone at you and tell you to play Angry Birds! In 2009, Rovio was in a state of bankruptcy. And while searching through different proposals for what kind of games they should make, one proposal came in by a developer named Jaco Izano. His proposal was basically a screenshot of birds just without any arms or legs, and they looked very mad. And everyone in the room said,
"Those are some Angry Birds."
And so, the entire team of Rovio decided to drop everything they were doing and work on this game. It would feature physics that played similar to the popular Flash game, Crush the Castle. God, remember Flash? Jesus. But the team realized that they should have some kind of enemy inside these structures. I mean, they're just built up. Who built them? And why? Well, around this game's development in 2009, the swine flu was going around, and so the team decided that the enemy of this game should be pigs. It was either that or it was because the developer of the concept art had a few pig drawings as a kid, because they do deny this whole swine flu stuff, so, you know, it's either that or that. Pick your poison. Later on, they would finally release the game in December, and the rest is history. I mean, sure, there was the whole and not gaining any popularity until like later on. But still, the popularity gained honestly drove Angry Birds to the top. And every year, Rovio would release brand new updates to the game, even brand new games like Angry Birds Space, Angry Birds Go, and heck, they would even go on to make a movie based off the game. And then later on, they would release Angry Birds 2, and that would ruin everything. And then they would release Angry Birds the movie 2, and that would burn everything. And then they would bring back the classic Angry Birds game, which was alright. And then they removed it, and now they're making a third movie. Huh. I'm sensing a pattern. As for me, my experience with Angry Birds, I did play the original Angry Birds and some of the variants. And I did buy the re-release of the first Angry Birds. Although I don't know if I can still download now. I have to check either way. And I do have this copy of Angry Birds Trilogy on the 3DS. So if any chance the original Angry Birds goes away forever, at least I still have that. Or the other method I'm about to use. Now, while that coverage of Angry Birds is mostly surface level knowledge, I will admit it's not the best. Which is why I recommend checking out Sunny V2's video about the entire downfall of Angry Birds. I know it's a little bit controversial to mention him for his previous actions, but I think it's honestly fine to do. Plus, the video itself is actually pretty well documented in my opinion. So honestly, I recommend it. But for today, we're taking a look at the Angry Birds games, or at least the ones I could get access to. Now, I will admit, it is going to be hard to tackle a mobile game, but, I mean, I've tackled a movie video game, so I think it should be fine. Also, just to be warned, I did give each of these games an hour of my time, so if there's about a certain piece of content that you wanted me to take a look at or cover a bit, I'm sorry, I just missed it, I guess. But anyways, let's get started. The first Angry Birds is great. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Angry Birds Season. Now for those Gen Z kids out there, you're probably wondering, how do you play this game? Well, it's simple. You have a slingshot, you got a couple of birds, there's some pigs over there trying to eat newborns. Go! For each level, you're given a set amount of birds to destroy certain structures that the pigs hide in. And every time you defeat all the pigs in the level, depending on how well you do, you can get a 3-star rank. In order to get this 3-star rank, it all comes down to managing your birds and figuring out what part of the structure is the most weakest in order to make the entire thing come down, as well as the extra birds that you keep on the side count towards your score as well. So it's a pretty unique system and pretty addictive when you really look into it. It really sets to test your mind out to see what part of the structure really is the weakest in order to figure out the best possible outcome. As for our bird cast, we have Red, the basic bird who has no powers unless you tap your screen and hear him say "Baka!" Then there's Chuck, the yellow bird who's a triangle, who has the ability to speed super fast and can destroy wood easily. Then there's Jay, Jacob, and Jim, the names of the little blue guys that can split into 3. And they're easily good at destroying ice structures. And then there's Bomb, the blackbird, who has the ability to destroy rock real easily and blow himself up in the aftermath. It's a very useful bird. And then there's Matilda, the white bird, who has the ability to lay an egg that's a bomb. That is literal warfare moment. And that's our main cast of characters before Rovio decided to update the game and add more campaigns and especially more birds. Now, granted, the campaigns he adds are honestly just more levels, but in different, variety types. Like a Western style or a beach style, underground, World War II. But for the new birds that got added to the cast alongside these campaigns, we got Terrence, a giant bird that's bigger than Red, who has the ability to basically destroy anything in his path, pretty much. Rock, wood, ice, he'll destroy it right clean through. And then there's Hal, who's a boomerang bird. I don't think I really need to explain much more. I mean, if there's this weak point behind the structure, that's what he's for. Although he is a little bit hard to get right, but overall, that's his purpose. And then there's Bubbles, a bird who has the ability to inflate himself, Pyro, as big as hell, with then deflating, acting like a balloon, pretty much. Why not just call him Balloon? And then there's Mighty Eagle, who is basically just the one-shot kill. I don't have access to him in the version I'm playing, but I do believe you can access him in the 3DS Trilogy game that I own. But anyways, his is just you throw a can of fish tuna at something and he'll come down and basically destroy everything in its path. The pigs are always guaranteed a 100% destruction. Really though, the game turns into basically how much of the structure can you make disappear entirely. The rest of the new birds are mostly just fusion variants. For Red, we have him being mad about not being able to have any powers like the others until Mighty Eagle comes flying by and drops some of his feathers, in which he picks them up and gains the power of being able to change his trajectory in an instant, which is honestly pretty useful. And then there's Short Fuse. In that one, the pigs are using chemicals and shit, and Bomb gets nearby one of the chemicals and gets affected by it, and now the dude's a literal EMP bomb. Now granted, I did enjoy my time with this game, but I will admit, it does get a little bit tiresome. To be fair, this is a mobile game. I'm not saying the game itself is bad in any way. It's still a great way to pass the time. But you gotta admit, it does get a little tired firing the same birds at structures and stuff. Unless you're really into doing this most of the time, I mean, you'll probably get bored of it, and it'll probably just be one of those mobile games you touch every 5 minutes when you're not doing anything important. The game's still fun. But Angry Birds, alongside the next 2 games we're taking a look at, will also follow a sort of trilogy that would go to be bundled in a console version of the game, Angry Birds Trilogy. That being Angry Birds Seasons and Angry Birds Rio. So, let's tackle Seasons next, and then we'll tackle Rio. Now, a big criticism you can give to Angry Birds Seasons is it's just Angry Birds. And, first of all, no shit, it's Angry Birds. Second, you could say that about the entire series itself, but at least this one tried to make some changes, and sure, the only thing it has going for it is just level themes based off different, seasons, as in the name. But it does try to make a little bit of an effort to add new birds to the mix, although not many. For the cast, we have Stella, a pink bird who has the ability to use bubbles to lift objects in the ground and drop them back down. That's just Sigma. Does Overwatch even have any original ideas? And then we got Tony, one of Terrence's cousins, who I don't have any footage for because I kind of didn't know he was in this game until I was doing more research for the video. All I can say is that he plays similar to Silver in Angry Birds 2, so yeah, Tony. And that's every new bird I can think of. As for the game itself, for Seasons, like I said before, the game basically just comes down to different level designs based off different holidays. We got St. Patrick's Day levels, Valentine's Day levels, spring, autumn, and summer, of course. I mean, we got other holidays like Year of the Dragon, surprisingly, which has a really good OST. Like, I don't know why they put most of I feel like they put most of the production of this game into the music itself, since they know that they can't make the levels that interesting or unique to whatever the heck you get from Angry Birds Classic, aside from the holiday difference. But I guess it is sad that this is an Angry Birds game with not that many new birds added to the mix, and just Angry Birds but with a holiday mix. Honestly, you'd wish it'd be something more unique, but I guess this is the best we're gonna get, so overall, it's okay. I guess if you do want more classic Angry Birds, this is your best pick. Now it's time to move on to Rio.
I love Rio! Ah!
Now, maybe I might contradict myself, but I do believe that Angry Birds Rio is surprisingly more appealing than Seasons. Which is weird because it's literally the same thing as Seasons, except, you know, you fight monkeys and the appeal is, you know, you're in the Rio movie, so you're in Rio. Oh yeah, and you do save birds in the beginning parts of the game. I probably should not mention this, even though it's already obvious. This is based off the film Rio. It's basically a film about two bluebirds, and the whole point of them was getting in love and stuff. Also, it's based off those real-life birds going extinct. Whether or not they're still around, I have no idea, but I like the movie overall. As for our playable characters, we have Blue and Jewel, the two characters that are normally chained up together, and in order to use them, you basically have to launch them in the air and activate their ability, and Jewel will drag Blue across the stage in one straight line, which can be honestly pretty useful. But as for the story, Red and the others get captured and get taken to Rio. Classic story there. And they're brought to the same place as Nigel, where he does his little sing dance thing. And then, you know, because they're the Angry Birds, they easily break out and they notice all the captured birds and basically plan to help release all of them. After which, they then go after Nigel and stuff to get revenge, and he teams up with the monkeys. So, yeah, the monkeys from the film basically become the new pigs, and honestly, they're kind of much better antagonists, mainly because they are a bitch to kill, especially when they're literally off balance, about to fall off, and they still hang on. Like, Jesus Christ. But overall, yeah, I like the appeal of Angry Birds Rio. Heck, we even get a boss fight against Nigel at the end of the second campaign. And I spent most of my recording trying to get a 3-star rank from him, which took way too much, and honestly brings me another complaint about this game and kind of the series' mechanics, because in order to get 3 stars, you know how I said 80% of it is mostly down to figuring out what to do? Well, that last 20% is most likely just RNG, because if you can't figure out the right timing or fucking shit's not going your way, you're not gonna get a chance at getting that 3-star rank. It's all down to luck. A lot of pure luck. But anyways, Rio did get a sequel, so what better way to sell out more than to cash in and do another sequel? Now, here we have Angry Birds Rio 2, obviously, but surprisingly, this game did get bundled in with the original Rio into a sort of combo deal, so you can play both the original levels and the new stuff. As for Rio 2, the story is simple. Red and the gang are invited to Rio, pretty much, after the events of the first game. And on their way there, they finally meet up with the gang and go! They just fight monkeys for no reason. And I gotta say, the art style here looks honestly so beautiful. The style of the birds, and hell, the physics are still the same. Honestly, I'm surprised they were able to honestly change up the art style while still keeping the same physics. It's honestly pretty cool. But for as good as the art style looks, I will admit there's a lot less content, which probably shows you where they put most focus into. I think there's only like 20 levels for each stage. There's only 4 campaigns compared to the previous games. So honestly, it is a bit of a disappointment that there's less content, but honestly, I'll take the good with the bad anyways. Because honestly, the art style looks so great. Hell, I know Angry Birds 2 is like trying to replicate whatever the hell you saw on TV Tunes, or whatever you want to call it. But honestly, this looks so much better, honestly, in my opinion. I can at least say that Angry Birds Rio 2 is a good evolution in the Angry Birds art style, you could say at least. Granted, we'll never see this again, but still, it's a good evolution. But those 3 Angry Bird games, while different in their own way, they are all in the same kind of category. They're on the ground. So clearly, we must take things to the stars. So, let's tackle the next 3 games that take place in space! Are you gonna cut? In order to not sell the same kind of game, just with a different style, Angry Birds decided to make Angry Birds Space. This time, the birds are taken to space, and the pigs can control UFOs. There's also an ice bird. He shows up through a portal, the pigs come through, take his egg, and the birds follow him as well, because their eggs got stolen as well. While traveling through this portal into the space area, they get transformed and have new powers. Red's still the same, by the way, but I also do think Terrence and the 3Js did get the short end of the stick, because I think their powers are literally just the same, they just don't act any different. But the gimmick of space is that it all comes down to gravity. In some of the stages, or most of them I guess, you'll find planet stages where basically the gimmick is you have to basically rearrange, or I guess change your projectile as you'll be circling around, similar to how gravity works, of course. And that's honestly opens up new stage ideas. You'll see stages that honestly defy normal physics, so you'll have to work around to finding the right way to aim at them and have gravity do the rest. And this can work in many ways, like shooting a bird around the planet's orbit so that you can hit it in the right part of the structure. Or have a bird hit another meteor and send it back down to the gravity belt, and send it down to destroy the pig's structures. Honestly, it's a lot of great ideas, and even this game even has its own boss fights. But it's not all just gravity stuff, there's other space elements that play a role in here. Like in the crystal level, where basically you're meant to destroy these crystal things and cause huge explosions that will get you deeper into where the pigs are and destroy them. But since the pigs are still pigs, and some of them hang out in space, it is possible to basically just pop them and actually kill them. That's a little dark. I know they eat our babies and shit, but like, holy shit. But yeah, Angry Birds Space is honestly a solid title, and honestly, I recommend giving it a try. I'm sure, I mean, some things are weird, and sure, not all the birds have their own unique powers different from the previous games, but honestly, I think it's still a pretty unique title, especially with the different themes they have going in space. There's more than just the crystals and space stuff. But since space is honestly just space, fuck it, let's do it. Let's throw Star Wars into it. And this is where Angry Birds Star Wars is, in my opinion, I think the peak version of the classic Angry Bird games. Before we do start, I will say though that I do think that this version and maybe Star Wars 2, the slingshot feels a little bit nerfed. I don't know, it just feels not the same as the previous games' slingshots. But overall, that's kind of my only minor complaint. The rest of it is honestly great, as every character from the Star Wars movies has honestly been turned into an Angry Birds character. And there's surprisingly a bit of a level progression system going on here. For Red, or I guess Luke, he is a, normal red bird, of course, but later on he does get the ability to use the lightsaber, allowing him to slash through enemies and stuff. And the same goes with Lando, or Chuck, I guess, but I'm going to call them by their movie names. Lando has a normal laser beam, but his laser beam gets more stronger later on in the story, or the levels. And as for the rest of the birds, we got Obi-Wan Kenobi using his force powers. And we also have Leia being able to pull objects with a gravity machine. And then the 3Js and Chewbacca get the low end of the stick again. It's honestly like you can't really make their powers more better. And as for the story, I mean, obviously you follow the story of the original Star Wars. Mostly from Luke's perspective. So I think episode 4 maybe? I don't know. But overall, great title, honestly, pretty fun, and honestly, it's a pretty fun take on the Angry Birds and, Star Wars stuff. It's a pretty solid title. But while that title was great, I think, in my opinion, Star Wars 2 is where the game gets taken up to 11. This time, we have new characters, well, mostly similar characters that all play the same, but still, we have more new characters to work with from the light side, each of them representing their own character and stuff. You got Yoda, that's all I know. But also, the levels here are honestly great. It all comes down with like 20 levels for each campaign. Each one ending with their own final boss, of course, which is honestly pretty sweet in itself. And each bird honestly acts as its own unique bird, doing some crazy shit. Well, I mean, they're all under the same specifications, as they have a little label telling you what their power is. But aside from that, they also all have their own progression system, where depending on what bird you manage to get the most points with, it'll add up to their skill bar, allowing you to unlock their own level in which you have to beat it in. But alongside all those great mechanics, you can also play as the pigs, or the pork side. You got Emperor Palpatine, Dark Vader, that red guy with the red mask and stuff. I forgot his name. I think his name is Dark Sidious or something. By the way, it's great to even play as the pigs in a Angry Birds game, honestly. First time for everything. But either way, they even have their own campaign, which you go up against them and follow their story as well and see what they're doing. It's honestly great, and each one has its own campaign slot, asking you to join which side, and in order to unlock the other side, you must get a certain amount of stars. Not only that, you can also bring out the other birds from the different levels and use them in other levels that aren't normally used in. Poor way of saying it, but yeah, basically you can pretty much grab any other birds. And the same goes for the pigs, and you can bring them in both different campaigns, of course. You obviously need to pay the fee. But honestly, the version I'm playing doesn't have the microtransactions, so honestly, without it, honestly, I think it's a pretty good title. Plus, if you save up enough of those coins, you can actually unlock permanent usage of them. Granted, you can only use them once, of course, but honestly, it's pretty fun. And honestly, that's honestly the best part I like about this game. It's a pretty solid Star Wars title, each one having its own unique characters and stuff, being able to play as the pig for the first time, and hell, they even made a Samuel L. Jackson bird. This Star Wars title has everything to it. It honestly makes you wonder, with all these great Angry Birds games, why isn't Oh, right, I forgot about Bad Piggies. So, instead of playing as the cool, epic Star Wars dark side pigs, sorry, I didn't mean to burp, why not just play as the pigs normally? And that's what Bad Piggies is for. In this game, you basically play as this mechanical pig who constructs these little devices of vehicles that you use in order to basically get these little pieces of a treasure map or get pieces of a cake to feed to the king pig. And yeah, that's all the title is about. Granted, I didn't get enough recording in order to show off everything because I didn't know what the register key was, so I had to play the demo stuff. But overall, from what I remember, you basically go through the stages, try and complete certain challenges from each stage. There are special bonus levels if you manage to get enough stars, and there's even a brand new playground mode where basically you use parts from the different levels you've obtained them in and use them to try and get to one area of the stage. And then the special part about this one is that it's mainly all comes down to your own skill and what you should use from the previous knowledge you've gained from the previous levels. So honestly, it's a pretty unique title, and if you're into that sort of crafting ingenuity stuff, I'd say you pretty much like it. I mean, I remember liking it that much. It kind of does make you question, how come the original Angry Birds isn't here anymore alongside these other titles? How come whenever I do try to search up any of the Angry Birds games that have been delisted on both app stores, I'll never find them, and that the only one I'll ever find is Angry Birds 2? It makes you wonder, because why even have an Angry Birds 2 when the first one isn't even there anymore? Oh, wait a minute. Now, one of the main reasons I think Rovio did delete most of the games, or delist them, I guess, is to focus on Angry Birds 2. When you have 6 games and a lot of licensing and stuff, and also you're meant to update them, I guess the idea is to just abandon them completely and delist them so that you can focus on one Angry Birds title, which really doesn't make sense, and honestly feels like they should have just left up the titles and just say like, oh, the project's completed, there's no more content being added to this game. So honestly, it really doesn't make sense. Now granted, it felt like Rovio was listening to us when they brought back the original classic Angry Birds, but then they removed it immediately, and honestly, that's a shame because this is a version of Angry Birds that you have to pay for, of course, but honestly, it featured no microtransactions or anything, honestly. It was pretty good, and I keep saying honestly because honestly, why would they do this? Because they later on removed it and then added it to the Apple Arcade Store titled under Red's First Flight, which just feels like you're just ruining the original reason that made Angry Birds so successful for you guys. I mean, seriously, like, what's next? We're gonna call Mario's First Jump, Sonic's First Spin, Kirby's First Suck? Okay, actually, no. Hell no, don't call it that. But alright. Let's see what Angry Birds 2 is so great that Rovio decided to delist everything so that they could focus on that one title. Okay, so the good parts I can comment on are the art style and the abilities. One, the art style, you can tell it obviously it represents the Angry Birds TV Toons style. And honestly, I guess it's alright, but I mean, like, it doesn't compare much to Rio 2's art style overall, and plus, yeah, that's all I really gotta say about it. The destruction and physics are honestly pretty addictive and fun. It honestly feels somewhat similar to what Angry Birds Star Wars 2 was doing with its whole destruction stuff. But I guess the main problem is the abilities. Okay, I will say this, the abilities feel much more quick and snappier, which is honestly pretty good. But it also is like a sort of two-way bridge where it ties from both good and bad stuff. So the bad stuff with the abilities, let's get into it. So for some reason they decided to give Red an ability, which honestly destroys the whole purpose of Red being the basic bird. They basically gave him a weaker version of Obi-Wan Kenobi's powers. Great. Second, there's now a level up system where basically you get these rainbow feathers, if you can find them, and feed them to the birds and level up their abilities. Does it make them stronger? I mean, maybe. I have no idea. Probably not. Maybe by like 1%. But no, it's actually used to serve as a multiplier for your score. So if you just level up a bird high enough, you can level up their score and just get 3 stars all the time, which kind of just removes the entire point of Angry Birds' challenge, which is to, you know, make these complicated structures so that you can try to find the best way to get the most amount of destruction and have a high enough score. So that's all thrown out the window. And another one, and this is the big one, of course, this game is heavily reliant on microtransactions. Almost featuring everywhere. You got these little crystal gem things, which, you know, if you play Clash of Clans and you know the gems and you gotta buy more stuff for that shit, then yeah, it's pretty much all about microtransactions at the end of the day. Heck, you even use them in this sort of like gambling thing where basically you pick a card and make sure you don't get the green pig. I was able to score a Uncle Sam hat, so now I can make it look like Uncle Sam is now hitting the pigs, so cool, I guess. Do you think Foreman Pig was based off Stalin? And another thing to tie in with the whole microtransactions base is the ads, and I find it weird that me having the PC version of this game, there's still ads into it. I mean, it's a Microsoft game that I downloaded through there, so it makes sense. But honestly, the way how it handles is very terrible. Like, you can't even click off the window. If you do that, the ad will pause entirely. And during my recording, I've had instances where like the basic ad itself somehow crashed the entire game. Have you ever had an ad on your computer crash your whole game? What the hell? But I guess we could talk about the gameplay. So how does it work exactly? So basically, in each stage, you're given all the birds, depending on who you unlock along the way of your journey. By the way, this is like a level roadmap thing. It's not the simple campaign stuff. This time, you're given the set amount of birds you've unlocked, and you're meant to use them in a sort of card-like fashion. You only get 3 cards of use. So you launch them, and depending on how much damage you can cause, you can fill up the meter on the top right to have a chance to reuse said bird again. It's all about reusing the score system and basically getting a chance to launch the bird again, which kind of destroys the whole purpose of Angry Birds, which is to have a set amount of birds to use to launch and gain a certain score. This time, it's just, oh, cause as much damage as possible, you'll get a chance to use the birds again. Or you can also use the fucking special abilities that we have, like ice or duckies and stuff, which ties more into microtransactions, which makes that even worse. And you can't even restart the level. If you fail, you will lose a heart. Lose 5 of those hearts, and you have to wait a while to recharge your heart so that you can get another chance to do it. Or, of course, you know, pay more again. Boss fights do show up in this, and they're actually pretty okay. I mean, it's just literally just be creative enough to basically launch them and basically destroy them by either pushing them off the side or finding your own way of launching objects towards them. That's fine, I guess. But you want to know why, or I guess where I decided to stop covering this game? Well, we're at the point where I was about to fight King Pig and stuff. And by the way, that's a terrible crop version of King Pig in his animated form. And for some reason, the game crashed again. Like seriously, I tried to like go do something, and then it just crashed entirely. Like, I'm not able to move around. I can just look around, look at Red's dumb face, and just, that's it. You know, this is kind of weird for like a PC game to crash this easily. My phone, I can understand, but literally on my PC, like, goddamn. And the worst part is there's not even a chance to even remove the ads, by the way. Not to say that that's really a good thing to have. I'm just saying, like, even if it had it, it still doesn't make it better. And the worst part is, I feel like there are elements here that could make a good Angry Birds title. You just have to remove the ads and stuff. But no, of course, we're going to keep that in because we want as much money as possible so that we can, you know, squeeze as much as we can out of our audience who still loves our games, even though I'm pretty sure that audience is still dying and going lower. But honestly, Angry Birds 2 is honestly hell the worst, in my opinion. The gameplay, you could say it's alright, but the fact that it's tied underneath so many microtransactions makes it just so just more annoying to try and play. I would love to try and enjoy this game without the ads and stuff like that. Or maybe without this whole being able to cheat your way through by just buying shit with real money instead of just leveling up normally and stuff. I could see potential in that, but the ads just ruined the whole experience and stuff. It's very microtransaction predatory. And that's why I think it's honestly just the worst, and that the fact that they chose to delist everything just for this one title. But yeah, that's Angry Birds for you. It's honestly disappointing to see this great series back in the 2000s, early 2010 I guess, go from this multimedia franchising, having all of these cool games with awesome music, great level themes, and cool crossovers, to nowadays being reduced to basically just having one app that's just a very microtransaction heavy based by a company who just now all cares about is just being greedy as hell. Especially with the fact that the company probably shows zero signs of changing its ways, especially with all the head developers that used to be there around the time of Angry Birds release being long gone now. Don't get me wrong, there are still many ways of playing the original Angry Birds games, but either way, those methods are still underneath Rovio's greed and stuff. Being locked behind the Apple Arcade store, or buying the console ports, but that's not really more so going toward their pockets, it's just, you know, preservation stuff. At least these exist. But still, it's sad to see the series be like this. Especially when we all thought, or, well, I guess where I thought, that the series was going to be going into a bit of a resurgence point with the re-release of the original Angry Birds. But honestly, since it's been delisted and renamed and stuff, is there any hope? I mean, I know Rovio has been bought by Sega, but the best we can do is hope that maybe they'll see how the original Angry Birds skyrocketed back in the day. But all we can do is hope, at least. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video of me covering the Angry Birds games. It was honestly pretty fun to do and actually look at how fun the games were. And yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed. I gotta get out of here, so I'll see everyone later. See ya! What the hell? What the hell? Is this a... Oh, shit.